Good evening, everybody. We have a pretty extensive stream in front of us. Like I said, it'll be the last one I'm able to do for a couple of days. We have a lot to talk about. So the primary things are going to be Bossy's record-setting performance lately because he's been outstanding, and we're going to talk about his numbers a little bit more extensively and everything like that. I've added some stuff in here for that. We're going to talk about the Nystrom extension. We're going to talk a little bit about the trades that Edmonton made today, just because that does kind of get the market moving. And, you know, a lot of times there's smoke, but there's not fire. However, the fact that those trades took place and Nystrom signed today, maybe they're not related at all. Maybe it was already in the works. I imagine that it was. That being said, domino effects do happen. And potentially you're looking at, holy shit, there's a lot of y'all in here already. Hughes to Minnesota? No way. You better be. No. This was not the time for this. I do not believe you. No way. I swear to God, if you're lying to me, I'm going to suspend all of you from the chat for like a month. I will deport every one of you. Dude, this is real. Okay, none of you are getting deported. Friedman posted it. I see it myself. Okay, yeah, it's okay. None of you guys are getting deported. None of you will get deported. I would have. If I found out you were lying to me, I would have deported you. I would have deported you all. Not forever, but like I would have put you in timeout. Bro, I already had a damn hour and a half stream lined up, and now this happens literally 5 seconds after I go live. What the hell? I need to call in some reinforcements. What's Matthew doing? Or somebody. Maybe I can get Griff or AB on here with me. Wow, that just kind of threw a wrench into everything. Rossi to Vancouver. Wow. Okay, so live breaking news, not from me, but from someone who's actually reliable in that regard, Elliot Friedman. Quinn Hughes is being traded to Minnesota. And it looks like Marco Rossi is part of the return. I did not see that coming. Stand by. We're going to have to call an audible on the presentation here. Stand by, guys. I cannot believe this. That I was not expecting him to end up in the West. Yeah, Rossi, poor guy. I mean, you know, that gives them two centers, though, if they keep Pettersson. I still, well, see, I see what you're saying there, Reese, but like, imagine Faber and Quinn Hughes together. That's going to be something. Okay, now we have this to add to it. Okay, so like this actually ties into everything we're talking about. Dude, I knew it was going to move, Lackey. I knew it was going to move just because it was just waiting on the first domino to fall. Like, I can't believe that this happened. Like, I mean, I can believe that he got traded part, but I was willing to bet my last dollar that he was going to Minnesota at one point. Ogren, Bouillon, and a first. So it's not Rossi. Let me correct myself on X real quick then. Oh man, and they're doing this without okay, so we're gonna wait and see what the return is. In the meantime, we're gonna get on with the show. All right. Kaplan says Rossi. Friedman said that. Chris Johnson confirmed Rossi was a piece. Okay. All right. Never mind. We're stopping all this. We're stopping all this right now. And what we're going to do is, let's see. Let me get the share screen going. Stand by, guys. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Okay, let me just go straight to Marco Rossi, Zeev Bouillon, Liam Ogren, and a first. So now we know. Well, for the first time since probably the Mikko Rantanen trade, whether you want to account for part 1, part 2, or both, we actually have a pretty groundbreaking trade going on here. Wow. All right. Caleb, if you're watching, I got my Waterloo, buddy. Wow. Hold up. I'm going to get Puckpedia up here because, I mean, it probably hasn't updated yet. Breaking. Okay, so it's still got the Jari for Oilers thing up, or Jari being traded to the Oilers thing up here, the headline on Puckpedia. I'll be damned. This was not on my bingo card. Yeah, Slavin is our GOAT. You beat me to it. If they traded for him and he doesn't extend, maybe they can flip him and get something decent. But if he only says he'll go to New Jersey, they're only going to get the minimums for it, i.e. Patrick Kane when he got traded to the Rangers. They basically couldn't do much because he had control over where he went, and that's the only place he wanted to go, so they didn't get as much of a return as they might have gotten. Minnesota's really swinging for the fences here. They really are. I'm not sure what the plan is here. Well, yeah, and if he resigns, that's a trade that could work out for both sides. By the way, guys, I was doing a lot of stuff on YouTube today because I was working on my other 2 channels a lot. I've been in front of this damn computer all day. Please make sure you're subscribed because I have 2,000 plus reoccurring viewers every month, and I still only have 740 on the YouTube side of things. And when I get 260 more, I'll actually start making some money doing this, and I can start dumping that money back into the channel. I'm going to get better equipment and, subscriptions to Hockey Reference and everything like that, and Elite Prospects. I'll do a lot more Prospects content once I have that. All right. Well, I'm going to try to shelve this for a second and get back to what the original plan was, at least for a little bit. All right. So Carolina, when they played against Washington last night, I couldn't have asked for a much better executed game. They maintained the exact momentum that they had when they played against Columbus the other night. Very, very well executed game. So final score of 3-2. Expected goals 4.16 to 2.58 in all situations. 5-on-5 goals. Carolina only had 1. They scored the other one with the goalie pulled near the end. Washington had 2. Expected goals 5-on-5, 3.49 to 2.11. So Washington scored right at expected for their expected goals at 5-on-5. Not anything to be upset about if you're the Hurricanes. The Capitals are unfortunately a good team right now. That'll change when April comes around. Don't worry. Or more than likely May, but don't worry, they'll fall off a cliff. It always happens. 0 for 2, 0 for 1. No power play goals were scored in this game. No shorthanded goals were scored in this game. Carolina absolutely dominated shot attempts, 83 to 46. Carolina blocked 10 of 40 of the 46 shot attempts from Washington. Washington blocked 21 of the 83 from Carolina, so Carolina had a better block percentage there. Face-off percentages, Carolina finally had a dominant night in the dot where they went 65.2 to 34.8. Excellent job there. So when you go into the first period here, no goals were scored, but the expected goals were 0.77 to 0.72, 13 shots on goal for Carolina, 4 for Washington. That's kind of irregular considering that Carolina had a relatively decent edge on both, and the expected goals were about the same. The reason that I say that's a little bit irregular, I would have expected Washington to come out of the first period at least with a higher XGA or XGF, but they did not. Only one penalty was called in that period near the end. So the Canes started well. They kept pace with the Caps through the first period, started to take over as the game went along. Bussy was already showing signs of having a good night. He was excellent in that first period. He was excellent the entire game. The ones he let in weren't that bad. One of them was just pure bad luck. We'll get to that. I don't know why I wrote goal against not on him. I'm sorry, that was supposed to be in the second period slide. Late in the period, the Canes generated more chances. There was a lot of north-south playing, but in the first period, that tone was really kind of set that it was going to be a big north-south game. Ehlers and Stankoven and Blake, that line showed life early, especially Ehlers. Ehlers was shot out of a cannon last night, all 3 periods, the entire game. He was absolutely flying. So he lived up to his nickname last night. That signing is looking better and better by the day. You go into where the first period ended at. Justin Sourdough took a roughing penalty against Shane Goss' spare. That power play was like kind of the low point of the period for the Canes. It wasn't very good. They were kept on the perimeter very easily. They weren't moving their feet enough. They were kind of stagnant. It was very, very different from how they were playing 5-on-5. When you get into the second period here, this is where Carolina started to really open up the game. It ended up being 1-1 after 2. Expected goals 1.67 to 0.43. Shots on goal were 16-5, favoring Carolina. Corsi, a astounding 37 shot attempts to 19 shot attempts favoring Carolina. The first goal of that period and the first one of the game would come from Connor McMichael. That goal was kind of on Chatty a little bit. He stepped up on Ovechkin, got overpowered, got beat. He was able to make a centering pass to Connor McMichael, who was able to get away from Mark Jankowski. He kind of blew his defensive assignment a little bit, got left all alone in front and managed to score. Bussy overcommitted just a little bit on that goal, but not anything terribly egregious. In a lot of situations, you would get a save in that situation, but he just kind of got beat there. But the team overall did build on the first period. They hit the post 3 times in the second period, and Washington would hit it an additional 2 times, I believe it was, in the second period. Bussy was outstanding after that goal got scored. He had a short memory. He got right back to his game, and that's important. You're going to give up goals occasionally. It's just it's an inevitability. It's how you bounce back from it that matters, and that's what he did in this game. Team generated a high amount of quality chances, and this is when Ehlers, Stankoven, Blake, this is when that line really took off. They were already having a good first period. They were in the second one. They didn't allow the Caps to get under their skin. They tried to start some stuff. After the whistle a couple of times, they weren't able to do it. Aho's still a little bit snake bit. He'll get past it. He does this every year. It happens to everybody. And if you really think about it, with the exception of a very, very short list of players in the league, it happens to everybody. And even then, those guys, it does happen to them too. And I'm talking about like the best in the business, the McDavids and McCarrs of the world. Nikolai Ehlers would tie it up 13:43. You felt it coming. That says 77. It's supposed to be 7. That was his 7th of the season from Logan Stankoven and Alexander Nikishin. Point shot eventually found its way to Logan Stankoven and then eventually to Nikolai Ehlers, who buried it when he was on the doorstep there. And he worked really hard to create that chance because he created the initial entry with it and everything like that. Both high-quality chances. Good job by both teams to score their goals in that period. There was nothing easy for either one of these teams tonight. Logan Thompson was playing incredibly well the entire time as well. So into the third period here, Carolina would ultimately win the game 3-2 in a shootout. So there was some rough stuff at the end of the second period. Jackson Blake got into it with, I believe it was Nick Dowd at the end of the period, and that carried over into the third period. Nick Dowd and Jordan Martinhook dropped the gloves at the beginning of the third period. Now, me personally, and I posted about this on X, I did not think that was a good time to fight. A team like Washington thrives off of situations like that a lot more than Carolina does. That's one of those times where I understand you can't back down. You got to stand up for your teammate. And Nick Dowd is a pest, and sometimes you have to put a pest in his place. And then to top it all off, it wasn't that good of a fight. But in the third period, you had 1.72 expected goals for Carolina, 1.1 for Washington. That favored Washington a lot more in the early part of the period until Carolina started pushing in the last 4 or 5 minutes or so. Shots on goal were 10-13, favoring Washington. Corsi, shot attempts were 22-19, favoring Washington. Carolina didn't really play that well in the first 10 to 15 minutes of that period, and they kind of picked it up after that. At the 7:53 mark, Nick Dowd scored from Rasmus Sandin and Connor McMichael, kind of adding insult to injury because Nick Dowd, like I said, he's a pest. He's good at what he does. But Carolina pushed back really hard, and they kept pressing. The time on that is wrong. Please forgive me. Like I said, I was trying to get all this stuff together. And he would tie the game late. Jalen Chatfield did an excellent job forcing that turnover at the blue line or being in the right place at the right time and making that neutral zone transition play that eventually resulted in that goal. Nikolai Ehlers gets his second point of the night, his 14th assist of the season, and Jalen Chatfield, of course, the guy who made that entire play happen, was the fifth one. So as far as I know, that was counted as an empty net goal. Bussy was heading to the bench. I don't know if he got there. It looked like he did. I'm going to assume that he did because it was officially recorded as a 6-on-5 goal. So the fight swung the momentum in the beginning of the period towards Washington for a while. They generated a high danger chance immediately thereafter. Washington's top six was knocking on the door all night. Bussy had to be strong. Carolina didn't show a ton of pushback until late. Bussy stoned Ovechkin 4 times in that period. Very, very high quality saves on the greatest goal scorer in history. He was on the way off the ice when the game-tying goal was scored, as I stated, and Bussy ends the night with a 1.24 expected goal saved above expected. Logan Thompson ends it with a 1.98. He was great, but like I posted during the game last night, if you can hit the post, you can beat Logan Thompson. We saw that in the playoffs last year. We saw that in the regular season last year when the Canes played against the Caps. And then when you go to OT, Carolina was recorded 0 expected goals, while Washington recorded 0.32. When Aho made that one really bad mistake, like I said, he's snake bitten right now. He'll get through it. That turn of the game. But again, Bussy comes up big, and then he comes up big one more time in overtime, in the shootout. That's not a situation where Carolina normally wins historically in the last few years, but Seth Jarvis, absolute beautiful move. Logan Thompson right out of his jock strap, and that was the only goal scored in the shootout. So not only did Carolina win in the shootout, they won it in a kind of uncharacteristic way for them to get 3 saves and to get 1 goal from their side, and that's what they needed to win. So other things to discuss in regards to that when we get to it. And like I said, we'll get Bussy could not have had a better test than the one he had last night. He had to play in a shootout. He had to stop 3 penalty shot situations. He did so. He had to play against a really good team with a lot of offense that had a plus 28 goal differential going into that game, and he played well against them. The goal that was scored by Nick Dowd was kind of on a broken play. Bussy tried to clear the puck. It went off of Keandre Miller, and it just kind of physics were not on their side. He might not have even known he got hit with that puck. So just bad luck there, but Carolina bounced back from it, and they had a short memory, which was what was really important. They played excellent last night. You can't ask for a much better executed game against a team that is as good as the Capitals are right now. So good job by them. And we will get to some of the comments. I'll put this up on the stage first, and then we'll move that back there, move that back here. Will Parks, what's up, buddy? I like the amount of streams lately. Yeah, I will be doing them a lot between now and January 12th if I'm not at the pro shop working. If I'm at the pro shop, I won't be able to do it, obviously. That's why I'm not going to be able to do anything again until Monday. I'm going to be busy this weekend, so you guys won't see me posting or streaming or anything like that. Keep grinding, brother. Thank you. I will keep doing that. And like I said, you guys can help me out. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure you are. Turn on the notifications, hit like. That helps get it into the stream and everything like that. We've got 139 people in here. We're doing good tonight. The Nystrom deal tells me that we have a deal in works that involves D-Man. We potentially could. I will talk about that more extensively here. Cavery says, happy for Nystrom, one of the better puck movers on the team, and he's good defensively too. Like, what he doesn't have in size, he makes up for with good gaps, skating ability, and he has an extension in his stick that gives him an extra, looks like about 2 inches taller than what a lot of guys his height like. But the problem with a longer stick, and me and Matthew talked about this a little bit last night, and I'm speaking of this, I'm talking about this from experience, is a lot of times when you have a longer stick, it can mess up your shots and passes, but particularly your shots. You can potentially take tripping penalties. I remember I extended mine one time, and I took a lot more tripping penalties when I was trying to poke check people. And it can kind of give you a optical illusion about how good or bad your gaps are. Shortening up my sticks really helped me. This is the shortest that I've had them in, probably 4 or 5 years that I've got all mine cut to right now, because I bought a Proto R and I cut it, or I didn't cut it, but the Bauer stock height of the Proto R was shorter than the CCM and Warrior sticks I had. I tried that Proto, and then after that, I cut all my other sticks to the exact same length as the Proto, which wasn't a ton. It was like an inch for all of them, but it has made a huge difference for me on both sides of the puck. So Nystrom, however, can use that longer stick and still be effective with it, kind of like Aho. He uses the allowable stick for his height. And, you know, even though he's snake bit on the offensive side of things and has had a couple of bad turnovers, as far as what he does away from the puck defensively, he's been fine there. Lackey, what's up, buddy? What's up we doing tonight? Raleigh 98 says, what a great extension. I feel like the vibes of this team are so much better again this week. Let's go Canes. Yeah. They're not out of the woods yet. They're still kind of in damage control mode from that homestand not going well. But the two biggest games they needed to win, the last one of the homestand and the one in Washington last night, they got that done. They need to get 3 points out of Philadelphia this weekend, whether that's win the one on the road and then lose in overtime Sunday, or whether it's lose on the road in overtime and win at home. Either way, 3 points. That's all I want out of this weekend. That's a pretty tall order, but I think they can get it done. He just always seems to make the right play. Yeah, Nystrom is a very hockey IQ driven guy, based on hockey intellect as it is, you know, athletic ability and skating ability and everything like that. I like everything I've seen out of Nystrom. I really do. Let's go, Brandon. I appreciate that, buddy. That's also my name on NASCAR 25, surprisingly, and Bussy with Trussy. I agree. You would probably be right, Will, about the deal. I want to say Walker would be the one out. Walker would be the one that I would imagine. Chances in here somewhere foaming at the mouth, happy about that. I would imagine if anyone's getting moved out, Walker would be that guy. Like he says, Goss will spare masterclass this weekend against Philly. Potentially. That's definitely a possibility. So we will see. It's definitely something that could happen, because he's been playing very, very well at both ends of the ice, offensively, defensively, both. He's doing good. Yeah, Puckpedia still hasn't had the breaking news about Quinn getting traded. Always thank the bus driver. Absolutely. The show's starting. Yeah, it didn't. Let's go, morning taken. Let's go, Brandon. We didn't have the start we planned on, that's for sure. Houston, Minnesota. We talked about that. Yep. It's true. Friedman just said it. Yeah, I thought he was lying too. I couldn't believe it. Grayson, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Yeah, Houston. Yeah, that was not on my bingo card. Opinions on the Skinner Jari trade. I'm going to get to that. I've actually got slides about that. Safe from China. Yep, you're all safe from China. Yeah, you're not getting sent to China. None of you are going to China. I mean, if you want to go to China, I won't stop you, but I don't recommend it. Elliot Friedman is the best sports insider of all time, regardless of the sport. Yeah, he is. He really is. This dude, it's like he's never posted a false thing in his life, not that I've ever seen. And the one time that the few times he's made mistakes, he corrects it like instantaneously. He does not wait. Rossi to Vancouver, more pieces as well. Blockbuster, yeah, Hughes is free. Yeah, he went from one dumpster fire to a good team that could use him. I'm just wondering what Vancouver's going to do without Rossi, though, because, I mean, I just don't see how that's going to work out for them. I really don't, as far as how they're going to construct the roster. I'm going to have to look at it. I'm curious. I don't know if that's what the Wild needed, though. Yeah, I mean, when a player like that becomes available, everybody has to try to get him. Like, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they took phone calls from literally everybody on the league, even teams that are rebuilding and everything. So, Ogren, Boehm, and the first. Yep, that's what I saw too. I guess the title of the stream did not lie when it said the trade market was moving. I figured it was about to start moving, but I was not expecting this. Yet he wasn't being considered a few days ago. I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure what you're talking. Guess they're not coming for KK Whoop. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if them moving Pedersen is potentially still on the table, but like I said, I like KK. I really do. I want him to go somewhere where he can get minutes, and he's not getting to play in Carolina. So, you know, I think it would be best for him and his career to just move on and go somewhere else. And I'm always going to be a fan of him. I'm always going to be rooting for him, unless he's playing against Carolina, and then I'm going to hate him for a couple hours. But, you know, that's kind of what I have to do. But I think that where he can go play a little bit more of his game and not so defensively strict system, I think that he'll be a lot better off. Different reports, no Rossi going. Kaplan says Rossi. Friedman said that. Okay, Chris Johnson confirms Rossi was a piece. Rossi, Ogren, Boehm, and a first reportedly. The trades have really begun exciting stuff. That's what it looks like. Smokey, what's up, dude? Talking about throwing a wrench in your plans. Yeah, it threw a big wrench in my plans. I did not think that it was doing that cheap. Yeah, I mean, for Quinn Hughes, that's actually like, especially with not an extension in place because you can't give him one yet anyway. That's that if they can't get him to stay, that's going to be bad for them. That like they ruin themselves for years to come. Like as Mike Rupp falsely said about the Hurricanes, I think this sets them back a few years, and then they went to the conference finals. Good job on the analysis yet again, Mike Rupp. If he doesn't extend, Vancouver wins by a mile. Absolutely, I agree with that. Not going to lie, if we could have done this for KK Walker first and a prospect, I might have been down, but crazy to see many swinging for the fences when they haven't even won a series. That's part of the reason why I think that they're swinging for the fences. James says that's a steal potentially for Minnesota if they re-sign him, or is it just a 1.5? I'll wait and see until after July 1st. But I just, me and my buddy JJ, Devil's Joint, has a lot of him have talked about this online in front of everybody and extensively, like in chats and stuff. He doesn't want Quinn Hughes there because he's afraid it's going to become more of a distraction than Luke and Jack already are. So, and I understand that sentiment because the Hughes guys, they're a little bit more into the social media space and everything like that. And then they've got the weird book talk lovers that follow them around and stalk them. And, there was, I remember, like I said, I'm no fan of Jack Hughes, the hockey player, but like he doesn't seem like a horrible human being. And when they doxed the girl he was dating and she was getting death threats and stuff, I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's got to stop. Like that's insane. And I think that what JJ is saying about how it might be a distraction to have all three of them there, we saw something kind of similar, but at the same time, not remotely comparable with Eric Stahl and Jordan Stahl with the Hurricanes at the same time. There was a lot of pressure on them to perform, and they didn't have the greatest team built around them. So there's also that to consider. Slavens Argoat says, I still don't think they can beat the Avs or the Stars in the playoffs yet. They need to make a couple more moves. I agree. They're not there yet. Damn, Rossi traded while on IR. Yeah, he's probably retroactively listed. Can't wait to see some Devil fans' reactions. Yeah. This is just what it said. What's up, everyone? Are we actually having 3 trade deadlines this season with this Olympic break and normal trade deadline? What a time to be a hockey fan. Yeah, everything that didn't move this summer might move during the season. So the free agency frenzy isn't dead. It's just got some latency in it. The post and crossbar in Washington side was performing generational rage bait last night. Yeah, against both teams. That post was just reaching out and grabbing everything it could. So that definitely means they're going to rebuild. So EP40 is definitely available then. Don't be so sure because Rutherford said he wanted to get win now pieces. And, 2 of those 3, Rossi and William, can definitely potentially be win now pieces. So Quinn and Brock, that'll be a duo. Yeah, I would imagine that's who they're planning on pairing Quinn with is Brock Faber. Yes, thank you, Ehlers, for helping me win that signed stick. Oh, that's cool. Aho in a slump still has 26 points in 30 games played. Yeah, and then one night, before too long, he'll have a multi-point game and be close to being back to point per game, and he'll steadily increase from there. He does this every year. That's why I'm not worried. I just want him. He's been good in the playoffs. I want him to take another step, though. Last year, he couldn't have asked much more of him. He ended one series in a game where he scored twice, and then he scored twice in Game 5 against Florida, and that's, some of the notable stuff he's done. But Aho's next big step is in the playoffs. That's where I want him to really get going. Like, he's already going, but I want him to – he's in 4th gear. I want him to get to 5th, and then if he can, find a 6th. Wizard says, Stankoven heard all the noise. He's been fantastic the last 2 games, 10 for 15 in the dot, 1 goal, 2 assists. And that goal last night that he scored was absolutely sick. Natchez does have 43 points. That is objectively true. Natchez wouldn't have that amount of points here. No, he wouldn't. Natchez, at the rate he's going to finish the season with at least 90, and that's if he tails off at some point. But that's the key thing to remember. Does he tail off at some point? Because we do have to remember there were times where Natchez was on that type of pace here, and it fell off. 2 shutout wins this far still. Yeah, that does still feel weird. Natchez wasn't ever going to work here. I agree. Devils fans got to be in shambles. Some Devils fans are going to be in shambles. My buddy JJ is probably doing backflips right now. I'm considering seeing what he's up to and bringing him on because he did not want Quinn Hughes there. Minnesota's just going to keep him until next year trade deadline. Yeah, they might have to flip him, so we'll see. 2 Canucks 2026 first-round pick. Center Marco Rossi, D, Z William, F Liam Ogren. All righty. Looks official. Is Nystrom signing related to the Hughes trade? Was Carolina in on him? Potentially. Carolina's in on everybody, so I could see that. That is just what I said. Says that Pedersen is surely on the trade block now. Selling Quinn is the start of a rebuild from what I've heard. EP isn't the kind of older guy you want in the locker room teaching prospects to work hard. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm curious. Gas and Gravy, what's up, dude? They could have had KK. Yeah, well, it looks like they didn't. If KK does end up working out here, I'd be one of the happiest people about that. I really would. I have no idea why my name is referred to that old tag. I'm Levy Lateau, by the way. Oh, okay. Hey, good to see you, buddy. Aho has a higher point per game place in the playoffs compared to Barkov. Yeah, like he's been good in the playoffs. I do want him to find another gear, but the next gear he finds is like Conn Smythe level. Excuse me, one. All right, I'm back. I didn't want to cough up a storm on the stream here. Also, a forward being the main piece going to Vancouver increases the chances of Pedersen being moved for a package, including some good D-men, which we have in excess. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, like, what's Vancouver's mindset? Because Rutherford said he wanted to try and keep the team competitive. I just don't see any way they can do that. They have pieces that could potentially help them win now, but more so in the future. Rossi and Bouillon and Ogren are all future pieces. Rossi is the one that helps you the most right now. But yeah, a Quinn and Fay repair in Minnesota could be really damn good. I'm curious to see how that. I kind of wanted QH to go to the Devils because I don't think another softer skilled guy is what they needed. They need more physicality. Yeah, that could be the case. The way Tulsky talks, he at least talks to everyone that becomes available. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he talked to them at some point or another. All right, so with that temporarily resolved for the moment, we're going to get on to the next part of the show. We're going to talk about the upcoming weekend set with the Flyers. All right, so 13 December 2025 will be the first of two games between the Flyers. It'll be the second and third game of the season series. Carolina overall is 19-9-2, and Philadelphia 16-9-4. For purposes of the first game this weekend, Carolina on the away side of things, 9-4-1, pretty good record. Could make it better this weekend. Philadelphia at home is 10-5-3, so they're doing pretty solid at home. Home and away, Carolina is 10-5-1 at home. Flyers struggling a little bit on the road, but they're still above 500 with a record of 6-4-1 in their last 10. I don't know why it says that for away. That's more than 10, ain't it? All right, whatever, NHL.com. Last 10, wait, no, that's the overall away record, excuse me. Last 10 games, Carolina 6-4-0 to Philadelphia, who is 6-3-1. Carolina did come out of that skid, so I wouldn't put too much stock into that. There's already been one game between these two. It was the second game of the season. It was the last time that we saw Jacob Slavin. Carolina won in overtime 4-3. And then you have 13 December, which will be tomorrow. Carolina will be in Philadelphia, and then they will play in Lenovo Center literally the next day, and they will wrap up the season series on the 13th of April. So like I talked about earlier this week, it could be this week is going to be consequential for the Hurricanes. You have points that are a factor. Where you're at in the division is a factor. Season series, tie-breaking criteria, stuff like that is a factor. You need to win as many of these games as possible this week. They won the two biggest ones. If they can win tomorrow, I will declare the skid almost over. If they get 3 points out of this weekend, I will declare the skid over. But for the time being, they still got a little bit of work they got to do. But right now, things are looking a lot better. So I'm not going to talk too much about the goaltending because I don't know what the dynamic is going to be this weekend. I don't know who's going to start for who. I'm hoping that Bussy gets at least one start. We'll talk a little bit about whether he should get the start at home or the start on the road. So Carolina, with their win last night, officially got over the 100 goals for mark for the season. They have 85 against and a differential of plus 16. The Flyers, 87 goals for, 81 against, differential of plus 6. Goals for per game, Carolina 3.30 to Philadelphia 2.83. So one thing to remember with that, even though these guys have played a very similar amount of games played and everything like that, Carolina scoring a little bit more on average per game than Philadelphia. They're still sitting under 3, but Philadelphia is consistently scoring roughly 2+ goals a game. And I don't expect anything different in the game against Carolina. I fully believe that the Hurricanes will, in fact, get 2 goals scored against them in both games at a minimum this weekend. Maybe that'll change a little bit as the weekend goes on. When fatigue becomes a factor, the Hurricanes may start to take over this little mini, middle season series that they're going to be having this weekend. Goals against per game, 2.80 to 2.79. Not too big of a difference there. Power play, 15.4 to 17.3. Carolina only had one power play last night. Didn't go the best, but, either way, not that big of a deal right now. It's been looking better in the grand scheme of things overall the last few days. Penalty kill 78.8 for Carolina. That took a little bit of an uptick last night thanks to them killing off the one power play that Washington had. Philadelphia sitting at 81.1. That's not a surprise when they got guys like Nick Seeler on their blue line who really, really helped them out. Guy's a shot blocking machine, just for an example. Tocchet is a lot like Brennamore in the regard that he's pretty defensively minded. That makes sense considering when they played together and the era they played in. Face-off percentage 49.9. Carolina is almost back to 50. That's a great sign. Philadelphia is sitting at 48.4, so not too far below the 50% mark. Skating speed. Carolina doesn't have the max speed, but they're only down by 9/100ths of a mile an hour. But what they do have is speed in every other category. More 22-mile-per-hour bursts, more 20 to 22-mile-per-hour bursts, more 18 to 20-mile-per-hour bursts, significantly so in the 20 to 22 and the 18 to 20 categories. Shot attempt differential. Carolina has a plus 9.1 edge above league average and a shot on goal differential of 0.5 above the league average, whereas Philadelphia is below both of those with a negative 0.7 differential on shot attempts and a negative 0.1 on differential. Carolina should have a high shot volume, high shots on goal advantage over the Flyers over the course of this entire weekend, and the zone time is more lopsided than normal as well. Carolina 46% to Philadelphia at 40.8. Neutral zone 18.2 to 17.8 and 35.8 to 41.4 in the defensive zone. So Carolina's going to get their chances against Philadelphia. They can own Philadelphia in their defensive zone, and they can just keep firing the puck, generate chance after chance after chance. Maybe not the greatest one, but this is one of those weekends where I'm expecting if Carolina's going to win both games, they just really have to execute their game, play their game, do the volume shooting, and keep Philadelphia on the perimeter in their end. They don't generate a ton of high danger chances, but like every other team in the league, they generate enough to potentially win on any given day. So that's going to be a big thing for the Canes. Going over into the zone map here, Carolina, as far as shots on goal in all situations, whether it's high danger, mid range, or long range, the Flyers are a team that don't shoot the puck much. So Carolina's got a pretty big advantage in all of those. 1,004 to 730 for all locations. 263 to 204 in high danger, 293 to 235 in mid-range, 247 to 136, which is a very large difference in long range. So Carolina's got a really, really good advantage here in terms of their ability to shoot the puck, put the puck on net, generate quality shots on net. Carolina has every advantage on paper, at least in the offensive zone, provided that they can hold it for long enough, because the Flyers have a little bit of a hard time exiting the zone. That being said, they've still got some weapons on their team. So then you're looking at the zone map with goals. Carolina, again, has a advantage all the way down. 99 from all locations to 82 for the Flyers, 42 high danger to 32. Mid-range, they're dead even. But when it comes to mid-range shots, that's not where Carolina gets most of their money. It's mostly long-range shots and then turning those into high-danger shots with the shots from the point and generating the rebounds and everything like that. But at long-range shots, they have a 9-3 advantage, so that's also a good sign as well. So going on to the other stuff here. The trade market finally started moving today, and if you weren't with us when the stream started, breaking news, Quinn Hughes has been traded to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Marco Rossi. Who was it? It was Rossi, Ogren, and Zeev Buium, and a first-round pick. So the trade market's moving. Let's see what the Hurricanes do. The Oilers acquired Spencer Stastny for a 2027 third-round pick. They also acquired Tristan Jarry from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Stuart Skinner, Brett Kulak, and a 2029 second-round pick. So that has been done. The Oilers have their upgrade at goal. At least it appears that way for the time being. We will see. Kind of hard to really have a legitimate upgrade in goal when the Oilers just aren't that great at defending. So we'll see how that works out for them, but it did exactly what I thought it would do and got the trade market going. It just ended up being a much bigger trade than I anticipated would happen. Now, going on to the news front with the Hurricanes, there's some stuff I'm going to have to get ahead of here. First things, the good news. Yoel Nystrom, who has played outstanding lately. Like I said, good puck mover, good skater, great hockey IQ, a lot of good things going for this kid. He and Nikishin did not allow a shot on goal through the first two periods whenever they were on the ice. So I used to be excited about Legault and Nikishin being the pair of the future. We might already be seeing the pair of the future with Nikishin and Nystrom. It's something for us to keep an eye on. He has a 1.225 average annual value over the course of the next 4 years, a total contract value of $4.9 million. He made a smart move for himself because 4 years from now, he could get a very, very big payday if he continues to develop like he is. And this also lays the framework potentially, keep that word in mind, potentially lays the framework for Carolina making a bigger move. This opens up if somebody wants to, say, acquire Sean Walker. If a team wants Sean Walker as part of a larger trade for Carolina to acquire something they need, i.e. a top 6 center, Sean Walker is someone that could be interesting because he's good on both sides of the puck. He's on a very good deal. I believe he's $3.6 million for the next 4 seasons, so that's not going to be hard for a lot of teams to accommodate. Walker's a good player. He skates really well, very well-balanced game. He's the definition of steady. He doesn't do anything amazingly flashy, but when you talk about a guy who just shows up and does his job, Sean Walker is that. So maybe some teams are looking at that. I've heard Chatfield's name thrown around in the not insider circle, but just amongst people who speculate like myself. I don't think Chatfield would be moved because you don't want to give up too many of your defensive eggs because he's the best pure shutdown guy on the team to Jacob Slavin, and he's taken on a pretty increased role. He might have had the real heaviest increase in minutes since Jacob Slavin has been out. I don't see Chatfield getting moved. So on the Chicago Wolves front, even though I do my best not to cover that organization because I hate them, Andrew Rinaldi, who is a Chicago Wolves reporter, reported that, or several people had reported it. The Hurricanes, I think, posted it first, as far as I know. Former Wolves coach Cam Abbott will remain with the organization after being relieved of his head coaching duties. And the Chicago Wolves are 11-7-3-1 because that's how the AHL does their standings, the one at the end being a shootout loss. Which is effectively 11-11. So the team is okay, but it's not great. Spirios is taking over. I've watched him on many, many streams with Sound the Siren. I think he's going to do a great job. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. So the Hurricanes were a little bit concerned with the direction of it. I did read that North State Journal Online article that Corey Lavalette wrote. It was very good. 3 big takeaways from that. One, the Wolves are 11-11. Essentially, they're 11-11. They're only above 500 on loser points, for one thing. Number 2, the decision to relieve Cam Abbott had zero to do with anything other than coaching performance. There's a lot of people saying out there that with absolutely no proof whatsoever that it had something to do with the Calfoot signing. There is no indication of that whatsoever, and people were fabricating that in their own minds and making it part of the thing. And the third biggest thing, Cam Abbott is staying with the organization, so it didn't piss him off that bad, apparently. Additionally, Cam Abbott's twin brother is also the VP of hockey operations for the Canes. So, him having a job lined up, that's a good thing. And we also have to remember, this might not be Cam Abbott's last coaching gig. This was only his second one because he was coaching in Sweden for Rogel, and then he took the coaching job with the Wolves. And sometimes coaches, they have a little bit of a rough first tenure, and they got to go back and find something somewhere else. So Spirios Anastas takes over. And like I said, I think he's going to do a good job. I've watched him do many, many streams with Sound the Siren. And I think that he's really in touch with how the youth does things. I think that he will, he seems like a guy who's very personable, very easy to talk to. And he's one of those guys that he's not like me. I'm hard to get along with. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not. Spirios, on the other hand, he seems like he's a social butterfly, but he can still, handle business and everything like that. So he's one of those guys that can appeal to a bunch of different personality types. And when you're talking a locker room, there's a lot of different personality types in there. Things tend to clash. People get pissed off at each other, whatever. But Spirios, I think, will be able to really take that locker room and do great things with it, take that team and do great things with it because of how personable he is. And I think that he'll do a great job coaching because of that primarily. And he understands the game pretty well too, from what I've seen. So that's all that there is to that. It has zero to do. There is no there's no indication from anybody reliable. And certain AHL reporters, as have been proven in the past, are wholly unreliable. There is no indication whatsoever that had anything to do with the Calfoot signing. And if you need the biggest indication that it had nothing to do with it, he stayed within the Hurricanes organization. So clearly he's not that upset about it. But that'll be the end of that. Now we're going to talk about some more happy stuff. Brandon Bussey is the first goalie in National Hockey League history, and essentially the history of the entire game, to be the fastest ever to 10 wins. 10 wins and 11 starts. He has a 2.07 goals against average and a 910 save percentage. Excellent. Additionally to that, he has an 8.7 goals saved above expected. He is 6th among goalies with 10 games played or more, and 0.782 in expected goals saved above expected per 60. 11th overall in the entire National Hockey League. That is every single goalie that is currently listed that has played in the National Hockey League. He is 11th overall. So this guy is playing his way into an extension. He'll be eligible, as far as I understand it, to be signed to an extension next month. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, because I think it's an inevitability. And that's another reason, like when people are like, oh, well, the Canes have $11 million of cap or whatever it is right now, use it. You got to be strategic about it, because every once in a while, every once in a blue moon, you catch lightning in a bottle. And that's exactly what you did here with Brandon Bussi. If he continues to play this way this month, he is going to play himself into quite the extension. So he's been absolutely outstanding. Absolutely. So looking at his numbers some more, high danger save percentage of .880, high danger goals against, only 11. He has only allowed 11 high danger goals against in 11 games. That's 1 high danger goal against per game. That is excellent. Percentage of quality starts above 93.6. Again, excellent. I'm expecting that number in particular to go up. Some of these other ones won't hold as he gets more starts, but I think he'll maintain a lot of them and everything like that. So save percentage zone map, you guys can take a look at that for yourself. All locations 910. League averages 8 danger save percentage. He has a big gap, 880 to 808. 866 to 889 for mid-range, 971 to 968 in the long range. So he's doing the right things there. He's absolutely doing the right things in all those regards. Save location zone map, high danger, 81 saves, 58 mid-range saves, 34 long-range saves. That is excellent on a team that does not give up a ton of shots, normally anyway, that does not give up a ton of shots like the Hurricanes. But he's making the high danger saves, which is important because teams have to work for their chances against the Canes. So he is doing everything he needs to do and then some right now. So everything looking good. All right. So that is all of that. Get back to some more comments here. Go Canes 94 says, what happened in Vancouver was a tragedy. So much talent wasted because of a toxic locker room / organization. Yeah, that's potentially true. I've seen some things that attempt to refute that. But like I said, I don't know personally, but a lot of signs do point to that being what's going on. Going in the Southeast road trip with 3 out of 4 points collected would be nice. Yes, that they need to get 3 out of this weekend and good to go. That's all you can really ask for them. Caver says, what a day. I agree. Definitely think Tulski is on the move. I'm hoping something's in the works. We'll see. Nystrom at 1.225 million AAV is a sweet deal from Tulski. Yeah, and it's good for Nystrom too, because that's a 4-year window that he can build his resume and get an even bigger payday. And he's still really young too. So guy was a 7th rounder. A 7th rounder. That just goes to show you, if you scout well and if you draft well, a lot of times you can save yourself some trouble, keep a team competitive, and not need a bunch of high picks to do it. So good on Tulski. Good on the Canes scouting for finding him. Caver says, I honestly think they will go full rebuild. The pieces they got was good, but not winning playoff good. This looks more like a team reset rebuild. We could give them KK Walker Nadeau first for EP40. That's a distinct possibility. It really is. We'll see. Really hope we hold Nadeau. Now he's training with Crosby and McKinnon in the summers and getting their praise. I think he could be on a great trajectory in the next year or two. He absolutely could, but the glaring need that the Hurricanes have for a top 6 center is something that needs to be filled, and that's going to cost you something. If that ends up being Nadeau, so be it. He won't be the first thing offered up, but I can definitely see something like that happening. And then another thing we have to consider why Nystrom may have been signed was in the event that they do want to move Walker. Walker's got a significantly higher cap hit than Nystrom because his 1.225 doesn't kick in until next year. And then you account for, 1, that it's not a big increase over an ELC, and 2, he's going to, the cap's going to go up probably another $4 million or so at least. So that'll get eaten up pretty quick. And then, Stankoven and Blake's extensions will kick in. That'll be covered by the cap. Nikishin will need one. So a lot of this stuff is going to go away. So they have to be very careful with managing the cap with who they move out and who they bring in. But I have total and complete confidence that they'll do that. Bussy. Robert Thomas, 21 points in 28 games played. Elias Pettersson, 22 points in 28 games played. I'm still a Robert Thomas guy. What's up, boys? Good to see you, Daniel. How are we feeling about the trade? Man, that blindsided me, dude. Hurricane trade advisory. Yeah, we'll keep the trade advisory up. We're not in trade warning area yet, but we are definitely in trade advisory area. I think that I think something's coming. I really do, and that's just speculation and gut feeling on my part. That is not me being an insider or anything like that. I've got a couple of little connections, but I don't really talk about them very much. But I definitely think that something might be in the works. It's a distinct possibility that something's in the works. But all right, guys. Well, thank you for joining. I'm gonna get ready to go to work tomorrow. I have to be up somewhat early. I would like to play a little bit of NASCAR 25 before I call it a night. This has been an excellent stream. We had some really big news go down during it, and I am very, very happy that all of you joined me. I will be doing as many of these as possible over the course of the next month. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate all your support and everything. This channel has grown a lot, and it's been thanks to you guys coming in here and making it a lot of fun to do these things. So everybody, have a good night. I will talk to you. I will post as much as I can over the weekend, and I will stream on Monday night with my good friend Derek Dunn, who's a Flyers fan. So we're going to recap that whole weekend. We'll have the numbers and everything like that. Thank you again. I will see you next time.